Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. All right, come here. So, production for the Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, is really taking shape because he's grabbed hold of the production designer from his Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So that's very, very exciting. And I can't wait to see this film get into production, on-set pics. It's going to be very, very exciting because there's a lot to still find out. What Batman is this? Younger Batfleck, or is it a brand new version set in the past? Is it even set in the past? Because Matt Reeves hasn't actually said that. You know, there's a lot of fill in the blank. So I can't wait for Matt Reeves to sit down with someone, maybe with someone from the Wrap or the Hollywood Reporter, and just explain what Batman this actually is. So, who's heard of John Aaron Garza? We've spoken about John here before on Big Mouth, and he likes to trigger opinion, doesn't he? And I think that's great. So he's done a video about, what's it called? Why Superman killing Zod makes sense. So we're going to listen to this video. We're not going to watch it. This video was actually taken down by Warner Brothers for copyright, but then he appealed against it and he got it put up. And that's great because I think, you know, this kind of thing is look, it's a really good video. I don't agree with what he's saying in this video, but I'm not going to insult him. I'm just going to tell you my opinion on the whole Superman killing Zod thing. Right, first of all, this is my take. Within the story, Superman has no choice but to kill Zod in that moment because David S. Goyer gives him no choice. But should Superman be cracking someone's neck? No. Now, the whole idea of this, now this is David S. Goyer, that this was going to be his reason for his no-kill policy in the future. But I expected in the next film, which was BVS, for him to have an opportunity to kill again, be in that scenario again and say, no, I felt what it's like to take a life. I will not do that again. That would have been compelling. But they didn't do that. So it really makes it an empty situation. I remember watching this moment in the cinema and everyone was just so shocked. So diehard Superman fans were butthurt about this because you can pinpoint moments in history where maybe Superman's allowed people to die. I don't know. I don't know all the history in the comics. But we're going to listen to this video now and see what John has to say about this situation. And I'm going to react about it.
Films. The main man, Christopher Reeves, wanted to take the character into a more serious route. He actually said, it's not the Superman tongue-in-cheek cartoon character we're connecting with. We're connecting with something very basic. The ability to overcome obstacles, the ability to persevere, the ability to understand difficulty and to turn your back on it. But we also saw 2 lackluster Superman films following that no one talks about. Then we got, whatever this version of Superman was in 2006. A copycat version of the Reeves Superman, but in a more modern setting. The fans showed they didn't want the same nostalgic Superman because that film has literally been forgotten. No one talks about that film. They only talk about Superman back in 1978 or Zack Snyder's version of Superman. There is no in-between. But that brings me to my thesis. Why Superman killing Zod makes sense. Would you like to know which version of Superman kills Zod? Both. That's the ticket.
Damn! Just like that. That's all there is to it.
That's right. The epitome of the perfect Superman murders Zod. And I say murder because context matters here. Imagine never seeing either film. If I merely stated that one version of Zod was powerless and the other version was literally using heat vision to attempt to kill innocents, which version would sound more dangerous? Also, which version would you feel more empathy for? To add another layer, one version of Superman kills Zod with a smile on his face and had been Superman for a few years now, with experience.
Let me be clear, I love Man of Steel, I do, but this is the problem. He's claiming that Christopher Reeve's Superman in Superman 2 kills Zod, Ursa and Non because he grabs them and they fall off the edge. Nobody knows if they died. Nobody. And as a kid, I never assumed that. And here's another problem with this. You're trying to defend one situation by saying, but what about that? What about that? That never works. That deflects from the central issue. Was it right to have Superman snap Zod's neck in that brutal way? Was it right as a writer to put Superman in that position? That's the question. It doesn't matter what happened in Superman 2. You're deflecting the attention, right? As I say, I'm a big fan of Snyder's DCEU movies, but we mustn't be over-focused in our bubble. And by putting Superman 2 on the stand, it really doesn't change anything. The question is, was Goya right to have Superman kill Zod? And that's the question you have to answer for yourselves as individual people. It doesn't matter what I think, and it doesn't matter what John thinks. But basically, what he's doing is he's becoming a bit of a lawyer. He's being clever with words. He's saying that Superman kills Zod with a smile. No, that's not his intention. That's not his intention. But Superman is put in an impossible situation thanks to Goya in Man of Steel. He knows that the only way he can stop this now is by killing him. So when he snaps his neck, Superman knows exactly what he's doing. But when Christopher Reeve picks them up and goes like that, there's no way he's thinking this guy's going to die. As far as I was concerned as a kid, he falls off the edge and he's just unconscious, just like the other two, and that's it. And off screen, he puts them in some kind of, I don't know, puts them back in the Phantom Zone, or there's some kind of cell in the Fortress of Solitude. I never for 1 minute thought he killed the 3 villains from Krypton, right? But even if he did, that doesn't change the situation of Man of Steel. And that's my point. Should we continue?
While the other version screams in agony and remorse over having to kill someone. It's not like this version of Superman had been Superman longer than 24 hours, right? You would think that the 1978 version of Superman would be called a murderer, while the 2013 version would be called a hero, right? Wrong. Take a look at how this Superman deals with a bully.
You see, this is the problem. This is the problem again. John is taking it within the story and saying, he's in the story. If you go into, look, if you do like the Last Action Hero thing where you're zapped into the screen and you're in that world and within that story, Superman is justified in killing Zod. He has no choice. That's not the point. And the criticism doesn't come from within the story. The fact remains, people are critical of the person who put that in the story and gave Superman a situation to do that in. But what happens is, with a lot of Zack Snyder fans and a lot of DCEU fans, they project their defense of this situation onto hating Christopher Reeve's Superman. And really, that doesn't get us anywhere.
Oh, God!
So you're now showing Superman teaching the guy in the cafe a lesson, right?
This order's to go.
To how this one deals with a bully.
Back off, Lego. I'm serious.
Come on, Chris.
Knock it off.
So basically, right, there's a lot of, he's showing a lot of clips. I don't know if we can get more audio from him.
Yet, why are the two viewed so differently? That might be due to the social construct that Superman doesn't kill because murder is wrong. But when are there exceptions to this rule? When does killing seem justified? We've grown up in a society to condemn murder. It's wrong, even if it saves more lives. If you watch Superman kill Zod in Superman 2 and laughed, it might have been because we never actually saw Zod hit the bottom of the crevice in the Fortress of Solitude. After all, this is a supervillain that was now powerless to defend himself. But seeing Superman snap Zod's neck, that is unacceptable. Superman could have covered his eyes. or lifted him to continue fighting. Or, I don't know, something else. Why would Zod put Superman in a situation like this?
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them.
Why would he use his moral code against him that way?
Don't do that.
But he did the right thing. He realized that no matter what, Zod would endanger the lives of millions more had he lived. There was no prison to hold him in. There was no reasoning with him, and Superman knew that the only person capable of taking Zod out was him. And so, Superman kills Zod.
See, what John Arryn actually proves in this video, he counters his own argument. Because what he's doing, he's making an argument for justification within the story, which you can, of course, do. There's so many reasons within the story. Zod puts Superman in a situation, he can't fly him out. They're in a position physically that Superman has no choice but to break his neck. It's as simple as that, right? So you can twist and turn like a solicitor to get the agenda out that you want to, and you can start putting down Superman 1978, Superman 2 1980, until you're blue in the face. But this is not an issue about the story. The issue is, and this is what people are saying, that it should never have been written that way. You know, first of all, do we want Zod dead? Do we not want Zod to come back for another day? Recurring villains are a great thing. And DC has got great villains, and you don't just want to kill them. It's why I didn't like that Burton killed the Joker, because I wanted the potential to potentially see him again, right? And this happens a lot. So basically, as I say, you can make arguments for it within the story, and you can defend it within the story. But what you can't do is start talking about Christopher Reeve's Superman killing those villains, because there's actually no evidence that he actually killed them, because you don't know how far down they're falling, right? And the way it's done, it just seems they're going to fall down. But that's not the issue. As I said earlier, you can't defend something else by saying, as I say, see what... It's like when you're a kid and you do something wrong, right? And you start telling, and you say, but what about Johnny? He did that the other day. But what about what you did? And that's the point. David S. Goyer did something very controversial, so controversial that he's co-writing man, one of the biggest creatives in the industry right now, Christopher Nolan, took a step back and thought, you know what, you're going to have to explain this to me, David. And he did, and Chris felt a lot more comfortable about it. But I still think Chris wasn't happy. But, you know, David's his friend. He brought, you know, it was David's idea. This Superman idea was his idea. Without David S. Goyer's idea, there would never have been a Man of Steel. There would never have been a DCEU. And so there you have it. But for me personally, the talking point, I don't care about Superman 1 and Superman 2. I don't care what happened. That can never be a defense. What happened, you can talk about what happened there, and you can deconstruct it if you really want to. But you cannot use that deconstruction of those films as a defense for what happened in Man of Steel. So, and what I would say to John is that this must be looked at within the creative team. Superman is a character that's been loved by a variety of ages, both genders, you know, different people from different cultural backgrounds, right? So what you've got to look at, how you've got to look at it as is this: was it right as a creative to do that? Because Man of Steel was, listen, and this is the whole rounded problem, and this is what I've discussed on this channel so many times. If Warner Brothers, Zack Snyder, and David S. Goyer come out and say Phase 1 of the DCEU will be telling the Injustice Superman story. Injustice Superman, right? Based on the computer games, right? That Superman goes bad. He's corrupted. Lois Lane dies and he goes mad. And he becomes a brutal killer. That's the story Zack was heading to. We all know that now. So let me tell you this. Or let me ask you this, right? If Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder and David S. Goyer had come out from the very beginning and say Phase 1 is leading to the Injustice story, Who in the hell is going to come out and criticise that? Fans of that game, people are saying, that's what they're doing. So that's why it's so dark. That's why the colour palettes are so dark. Right, I can't wait to see this play out. People, a certain amount would have still hated on it, but not as much of what we got for Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and the rest of it. And then Zack doesn't lose his job because of even the critics didn't get where they were going with this. But if there was an explanation, and if he was as vocal as Feige is with what his plans are he always talks about his plans for the MCU, so people understand why he's doing what he's doing, whether you like it or not. But there's no vocality to tell the audience and the press where this was headed. Because from the very first kick, if they come out and explain their situation, there will be no problem with Superman snapping Zod's neck or anything like that. But they got themselves into trouble because they marketed Batman v Superman and Man of Steel as a blockbuster, as a mainstream blockbuster. Both of them, right? And that's not what they were. So if they were honest about what those films were, we wouldn't be where we are now, because they are both excellent movies. So I should repeat on my response to John Aaron Gara's video. You can debate and defend Superman killing Zod. Within the story, it's quite easy. But as I say, the real question and the real debate is, should David S. Goyer have done it in the first place? Thank you very much. I shall see you in the next video. Please comment down below. Let me know what you think about this talking point. And as I say, like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.